Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session of Animal Kingdom, part theory part 6. Disclaimer: the images, text, and other material used in our presentations are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners. If you are the owner and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the content immediately. Please note that the parts of the content may have been generated using generative AI, which is totally experimental. So today's learning objective: identify and distinguish key characteristic of each vertebrate classes. So with the learning of today's lecture, you will be able to identify and distinguish key characteristic of each vertebrate classes. You will be able to compare and contrast adaptation among the different classes of chordates. We are studying today, we are going to study about the different classes of chordates, right? To understand evolutionary relationship, so you can find out what are the evolutionary relationship between the different classes of the chordates. Classify organism based on their features. You will be able to classify organisms, okay, based on their fundamental and specific features. Recognize habitat, preferences, and survival strategies. And today's lecture index is as follows: phylum chordata. So that is 4.2.11 of the NCERT book. Class amphibia, class reptilia, class aves, and mammalia. And at the end, we will summarize today's lecture. So we will start with the class amphibia. So as the name indicate, amphi, let us first of all understand what is the meaning of the term amphibia. So here, amphi means dual, and bios means life. Amphibia, so bia word is coming from the bios, and that means the life. So dual life means the organism that belongs to the class amphibia, they exhibit dual life. How they are exhibiting this dual life, we will see that. Amphibians can live in aquatic as well as terrestrial habitat. Yes, they can live both land and water, right? So that is why they are called as amphibians, because one of part of the life that goes in the aquatic environment, they live in the aquatic environment, and one part of life they live in the terrestrial habitat, right? So that is why we can say that these animals, these organisms are amphibian, because the amphi means dual and bios means life. Dual life they are exhibiting, right? Most of them have two pairs of limbs. So if we see the fundamental characteristic, just seeing the organism, what we see that if we see that their external body structure, then we see that they are having two pairs of limbs, forelimbs and hind limbs. One pair is forelimbs that constitute the hand, okay? Forelimbs that constitute the hand, and hind limb, that is the legs. We are also, like in the human body, we are having the forelimbs in the form of hand and the hind limbs in the form of legs, right? Similarly, these amphibians are also having the forelimbs, right? Actually, it is two pairs of limb, and if you name it like in the number, then you can say they are having the four limbs. So here are the two examples you can see. Amphibia examples. The first one is the salamandra. Salamandra. Okay. And the second one is the rana. Rana tigrina is the scientific name of the frog. This is the frog, a common frog, right? Rana tigrina. So these are the two organisms as an example of the class amphibia, right? Body is divisible into the head and trunk. If you see the organism, you can say that their body is divisible into the head and trunk region. Two main parts can be divided. Okay. The first, the head region, and the second one is the trunk region. The trunk constitute the whole body. Okay. Tail may be present in some of the amphibia. Tail may be present in some means in some amphibia, some amphibian organism, the tail is present. Okay, but in some, like you can see in the case of frog, frog is not having any tail in their adulthood. Okay, but they are having tail in the larval stages. Larval stages. So in the case of larval stages of the frog, we are having tail, but as the metamorphosis takes place, it changes its body structure. Some of the body structures or the organ get vanishes and some new organs comes along. Like we see in the case of this tadpole, the larva of the frog, they are having gills. But as tadpoles transformed into the adult frog, the lungs get developed in their body. Right? So this is very, very important. And here the tail may be present in some of the, like in the case of salamander, you have seen in the figure, salamander, right? They are having the tail. But in the case of frog, the tail is not present. The amphibian skin is moist. If you see the skin of amphibian, they are very moist skin. Now, there are many advantage of this moist skin to the frog. If I am taking an example of a frog, like there are many organisms that eat this frog. They want to capture. Even the human can capture, right? If you hold this frog with your hand, as their skin is very moist, it can easily slip away from your hand. So in this way, their moist skin is helping them to get capture, to do so that they can escape from their enemies and they do not get captured by them. So they are not having any scales like thing. They are not having any scales like thing. Frog is having they are having both gills and lungs. No. Frog are having only lungs when they get developed. When they in an adult form, they are having only lungs for the respiratory organ as our main respiratory organ. Though the frog can respire through the skin, through the opening of the mouth also. But the main organ of their exchange of gases is done with the help of lungs in the adult form. But when they are in the larval stages, like in the form of tadpole, the gills are there for the respiration. So this we see in the case of like metamorphosis. This happen in the case of metamorphosis. Their skin is, we are talking about their skin. The skin is moist and slimy. Yes, their skin is moist and slimy. That means they are not having like scales. As you have seen in the case of fishes, they are having scales, right? But here the scales are totally absent. They are not having any scale. Instead, their skin is moist. Okay? Their skin is moist. The eye have eyelids. Now, you must have seen the frog. It is having a very protruded eye, and there is a lid-like structure in which their eyes are fit. So, they are having eyelids, right? A tympanum represent the ear. What is the meaning of tympanum? Tympanum is the eardrum actually. It is a membrane-like structure. That is the eardrum, right? So whatever the waves comes, it directly get to the tympanum, and the waves get many times enhanced in their internal ear, right? So they are not having external ear like we 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 are having we human are having our pinna or external ear, like yes. So they are having this tympanum which represent the eardrum, and this is the ear. The tympanum only represent the ear. So another name for the tympanum is the eardrum, right? It is also called as tympanic membrane. So whether it is written tympanum or tympanic membrane, it is the same thing. And commonly it is called as eardrum, right? So whatever the sound waves are coming, it get captured by this tympanum only. They are not having external ear or pinna like humans are having. So this is also one of the unique feature of this amphibians. Alimentary canal, urinary and reproductive tracts open into a common chamber called cloaca. So this is again a very important characteristics. This we see in the case of amphibians only. Alimentary canal. Alimentary canal, like what is the opening of the alimentary canal in the case of human being? Anus. Whatever the undigested food material is there, it is taken out. It is taken out by their anus part. So here, whatever the undigested food is coming from the alimentary canal or the nitrogenous waste material, that is the urinary tract, and also the opening of the reproductive tract, it all three things open into a common chamber that is called as cloaca, which opens to the exterior. So this is a very unique feature of the class amphibia. This feature you won't see in any other organism. Like they are having the alimentary canal, they are having the urinary and the reproductive tract, all are opening into one chamber only, that is called as cloaca, right? So this cloaca open to the exterior now. Whatever the undigested food material is there, it is withdrawn from this cloacal aperture. Urinary waste, nitrogenous waste, it is withdrawn from the cloacal aperture. Reproductive tract means the gametes, like the male gametes or the female gamete, that also comes out of their body from this cloacal aperture only, right? Respiration is by gills, lungs, and through skin. So here you can see the three different organs are there. There are gills, there are lungs, and there are skin. So respiration is by gills. In the case of, if we take an example of frog, then when the frog is in the larval stage, the gills are there for the exchange of gases, right? But when this larva, tadpole, transformed into the adult frog, there is a development of the lung. Okay? The main respiratory organ becomes the lung. Now, skin. Skin. Skin is also working as a respiratory organ when the organism or if we are taking the example of frog, then they goes to the under the soil They make the soil moist, and their skin at that time working as a respiratory organ. Gaseous exchange occur through this skin. And at that time, they cease their all the metabolic activities. They slows down their all metabolic activities. Okay? And they go for either summer sleep or winter sleep. Summer sleep or winter sleep. Hibernation, that is called as winter sleep, and estivation, that is called as summer sleep. So you must have seen that the frog are mostly active at the time of rain, but you won't see frog mostly in the case of like winter or the summer season, right? At that time, they hide themselves, they go deep, they make a burrow inside the soil, they make the soil moist, and at that time, their skin is responsible for the exchange of gases, right? So that is why it is mentioned here that they respire through skin also. The heart is three chambered. Okay. If you see the heart, they are having the three chambered, two auricle, the upper two auricle region, and lower one ventricle region. One ventricle region. So what will happen? What will happen here? Because the ventricle is one, so there is a mixing of blood. The blood, impure and pure blood, get mixed here, right? So at a time, we are not having a very pure blood only in the case of left auricle, right? The right auricle and the right auricle will have totally impure blood, but the ventricle will have mixture of pure and impure blood. So this is one of the disadvantage we see in the case of three-chambered heart. But as the organism is quite small, so the amount of oxygen that is available through the blood, even though by the mixing of blood, pure and impure, there is a sufficient oxygen that is received by whole body. Okay. So according to the like size of the body, the three-chambered heart is working, and with the help of that, they get all the sufficient oxygen they require. These are cold-blooded animals. Very, very important point. Cold-blooded animals. What does this mean? This means that they are not able to regulate their body temperature according to the external environment, right? So their body temperature will be like same. And that is why they could not bear severe cold. So that's why they go for winter sleep. They go for the winter sleep. And they cannot bear the excessive heat also. So that is why they are again become inactive at the summertime, right? So why they are going for the hibernation and estivation? Because they cannot regulate the body temperature, right? So, and as they are cold-blooded animal, so they hide themselves, and they want to protect themselves by hiding, by going for the summer and winter sleep. Okay. Sexes are separate. So when you see the frog, you can say that this is the male one and this is the female one. Sexual dimorphism phenomena we see in the case of frogs. Or actually, we are talking about amphibia. So in every amphibia, you can see that sexes are separate. Male is separate and female is separate. Fertilization is external. What does this mean? So see, the male will develop the male gamete, sperm, and the female will develop female gamete, that is the egg, right? But as they are not having any copulatory organ, so what they do, at the time of reproduction, the male frog hold the female one, okay, and the female will release the egg, and all the eggs are released in water in a jelly-like substance. in a jelly-like substance. And at the same time, the male will release all the sperms on this eggs, and they release numerous eggs and numerous sperm. Why they are doing so? Why they are releasing so many eggs or so many sperms? Because they are releasing the gametes in the external environment, in the water. And there are many organisms that could eat these eggs or sperm, or even after the fertilization process, the larva, right? So that is why, to have a continuity of their like generation, they produces more gametes, right? And their fertilization takes place in the external environment, that is water only. So water is a very, very important factor, and that is why you see more numbers of frog at the time of rainy season. Water is available there in the sufficient quantity everywhere, and that helps for this reproduction process. So fertilization, that is the union of male and female gamete, formation of zygote will divide and redivide and forms the embryonal stage, and that transformed into the tadpole. They are oviparous and the development is indirect. Oviparous means they lay eggs. They lay eggs. That is why they are called as oviparous. And the development is indirect means there is a development of larval stages. Yes, there we see larval stages as we see in the case of frog, in the form of tadpole. So development is indirect. Now, if we talk about the then bufo, that is the toad. Bufo is the scientific name and toad is the common name. Rana tigrina is the name of the frog, scientific name. Commonly we call as frog. Hyla is a tree frog. Generally you see small size green color frog on the tree or on the plants, and that is why they are called as tree frog. Salamandra, common name is salamander. Ichthyophis, limbless amphibia. Limbless amphibia means it is not having any limbs. It looks like a snake, but actually it is a amphibia. Limbless amphibia, Ichthyophis. So here you can see the two frog, salamandra commonly called as salamander, and rana, that is commonly called as frog. Now we will talk about the next class, that is called as reptilia. The class name refers to the creeping and the crawling mode of locomotion. Now here, what we see here in the term reptilia, the Latin repair or the raptum. What is the meaning of this raptum or repair? To creep or to crawl. So the creeping or crawling organisms are called as reptilia, right? And that is the mode of locomotion that they adapt. They are mostly terrestrial. Okay, reptilia are mostly terrestrial. Body is covered by the dry and the cornified skin, epidermal scales or the scutes. If you see the body of the reptilia, as they are living on the land, so their body cannot be as moist as we see in the case of frog, right? So that is why they mostly live on like land, so their body is dry, and they are having the cornified skin. Epidermis is made up of scales or the scutes. So here you can see the different organism. Examples: reptiles, chameleon, garden lizard, crocodilus, commonly we called as crocodile, chelone, turtle. This is the turtle, not tortoise. There is a difference between the turtle and tortoise. So at the end of this phylum, we will discuss about that, right? So turtle, this is the turtle, chelone, and naja, that is the snake. Okay. So see this external surface of the organism, whether it is a chameleon, crocodilus, chelone, or nasa. Their skin is dry. Their body skin is dry and they are having scales. Tortoise is tortoise is a reptile, but like they show they can live in the water as well as in the uh, land. They comes to the land to the lay eggs, but for food they are dependent. They take the food from the water, right? But they lay eggs. They always lays egg in the land only, right? So other feature, if you see, that belongs to the reptilia. Like they are creeping and crawling organism. So that is why they are considered as a reptile, not an amphibia, right? There is some students get confused in that, like the turtle and tortoise in these two organisms, and there is a confusion that the tortoise is a amphibia. No, the tortoise is not an amphibia, right? Okay, moving forward. They do not have external ear openings. Very, very important point. They are not having any external ear opening. Tympanum represent the ear. As we have seen in the case of amphibia, they are having a membrane that is called as tympanum. So, or the eardrum. So here, this tympanum only represent the ear. Limbs, when present, they are of two pairs, forelimbs and hind limbs. So that are two pairs of limbs. But some in the sum of these reptiles, they are not having any limbs, as you have seen in the figure, snake or the nasa. Okay, they are not having any limbs. But if the limb is present, it is two pairs, as we see in the case of chelone or the crocodilus, right? Heart is usually three chambered. In the case of reptiles, heart is usually three chambered, but there is an exception, the crocodiles. The crocodiles are having four chambered heart. This is the only organism that is having the four chambered heart in the case of class reptiles. Otherwise, the rest of the organism, they are having three chambered heart, right? So you must remember this point, four chambered heart in crocodiles. Reptiles are poikilotherms. Poikilotherms. So this is a very, very important term. Poikilotherms. It means that the animals whose body temperature fluctuate with the surrounding. It is not static. It fluctuates with the surrounding. As there is a fluctuation of temperature in the surrounding, similarly, we see there is a fluctuation of temperature in the organism as well. So they are considered as a poikilotherm. They cannot regulate their body temperature as the humans can do. Snakes and lizards shed their scales as the skin cast. So you must have heard about it, that like skin, the snakes, they cast their skin. They cast their skin means they remove their old skin and as the new skin comes up, right? In the same way, the lizard also shed their scales. Their body is covered with the scales, right? So that they also remove out their scales from their body. So snake and lizard shed their scales as the skin cast. This point is very important, and we see in the case of like reptiles, most of the reptiles. Sexes are separate, as in the case of amphibians, there is a male individual, there is a female individual, right? So here also in the case of reptiles, their sexes are separate. Fertilization is internal. Very, very important point. Fertilization is internal, right? So the male individual transfers the sperm in the female genital tract. They transfer the sperm in the female genital tract, and in the female genital tract, there is an egg. So the sperms fertilize the egg inside the female body, right? So fertilization is internal. They are oviparous and development is direct. Oviparous means they lay eggs. Yes, they lay eggs. Though the fertilization is internal, they do not give birth to the young ones. They lay eggs. And the development is direct. Direct means when the egg hatch and the new ones comes out from the egg, you see that this this new one looks same as an adult, but their size is small. So it is not like an larva. It is not like a larva. Larva doesn't look same as the adult form. Okay. But here what we see, the development is direct means the young ones look same as the adult one. Now here are we are having some examples. Now examples are very, very important, right? Chilone, Chilone, the that is the turtle. Testudo, tortoise. Now the difference between the turtle and tortoise. See, if you see the forelimbs and the hind limbs, what you see? In the case of turtle, they are having the flap-like structure. They are having the flap-like structure. But if you see the tortoise, they are having like small, small fingers. The fingers are not appear in the case of turtle, right? And turtle mostly spend most of the time in the water. Tortoise do go to the water, but not for most of the time, right? Chameleon, tree lizard. Calotes, garden lizard. Crocodilus, crocodile. Alligator, that is also called commonly alligator only. And there is a difference between the crocodiles and alligator. The alligator snout is quite long, okay? But in the case of crocodile, the snout is not much longer, okay? Hemidactylus wall lizard, poisonous snake, that is in the case of poisonous snake, we are having some of the example like Naza, commonly called as cobra, and Bengaris, that is called as karat, and Vipera, that is a viper. So here you can see the crocodile, the snout. It is not much longer. In the case of alligator, it is very, very long snout. Slender and long snout is there. And it is not, their trunk region is not so broad as we see in the case of crocodiles, in the case of alligator. Right? Here you can see, they are not, in the case of this turtle, the fingers are not up here. But in the case of tortoise, you can see the finger in their forelimbs and hind limbs. Right? In that case, in this way, you can differentiate these two organisms as they look same. Now we will talk about our next class of the chordates, that is the aves. The characteristic feature of aves, birds, are the presence of feathers, and most of them can fly except the flightless bird. So we are having the two types of bird. Okay? The birds that can fly, and there are some birds that are flightless. That is, they cannot fly. Like ostrich. Ostrich is a flightless bird. Kiwi. Kiwi is again a flightless bird, right? The characteristic feature of now, if you see the different characteristic features of birds, one of the characteristics that helps them to fly, that is the presence of feathers. Feathers, right? They possesses beak. They are having the beak because the type of food they eat for their capture, for the capture or to take that food, they need beak only, right? So here you can see some of the birds like neophron, and struthio, ostrich, pistacula, that is commonly called as parrot, and pavo, peacock. The forelimbs are modified into wings. Now, if you see the forelimbs, their forelimbs are modified into the wings. Now, this wings is also helpful for their flight. The hind limbs generally have the scales and are modified for walking, swimming, clasping the tree branches. Now, you must have seen that the birds are sitting on the wire, sitting on the branches of the tree. Now, they are having such their hind limbs that they could collapse the tree branches or the wire, right? And they are modified. Their hind limbs are modified for walking, swimming, as well as clasping the tree branches. Skin is dry without glands except the oil gland at the base of the tail. Their skin is not having any type of glands except the oil gland, and that is present only at the tail part, only at the tail part. Okay. And that is to the base of the tail. Endoskeleton is fully ossified, bony, and the long bones are hollow with air cavities. That is called as pneumatic bones. Air cavities means pneumatic bones. Now, why they are having this hollow bones? Because they have to fly. They spend most of their time in the air only. They have to fly, right? So if their body is heavy, they cannot fly, right? So that is why there is a modification in their body that their bones become hollow from inside. Long bones become hollow, and they are having the air cavities in those bones. They are having the air cavities in those bones, and that is why they are called as pneumatic bones. Those bones are called as pneumatic bones. The digestive tract of birds has additional chambers, the crop and gizzard. This is again a very, very important point. Why the digestive tract of the birds are having these two chambers in their digestive tract, crop and gizzard. See, you must have seen the birds, they pick the seeds very quickly and they first of all store all the seeds or the food they are eating, right? Because they are of fear that they could be captured by their enemies and they can be eaten. So that is why whenever they get food, they take all the seeds very quickly and store it in their crop region. Store in their crop region. So they in the crop region, they store all the seeds, right? And in the gizzard region, the gizzard is such a modified part that the seeds that are stored in the crop when reaches to the gizzard region, it get crushed there and become a paste like substances, right? So this the type of food they are eating, for that they got modified the crop and gizzard. They are the additional organ, right? Crop and gizzard. Now, one more thing you must note here that the birds, along with the seeds, they take small pebbles, and that small pebbles goes to the gizzard region. And these pebbles also helps in grinding and masticating the seeds or the food material that are present in the gizzard. Heart is completely four-chambered. Now here you can see four-chambered. In the case of reptiles, only the crocodile was having the four-chambered heart. Rest of the reptiles were having only three-chambered heart. But in the case of birds, all birds are having the four-chambered heart. This is a very, very important. They are warm-blooded, homoiotherms animals. They are able to maintain a constant body temperature. Now, this is a very unique feature of this particular uh, class, warm-blooded. In the case of amphibian, the organisms were cold-blooded. In the case of reptiles, they were cold-blooded. But here, the aves, birds, they are warm-blooded. Homoiothermous. They can maintain their body temperature. They can maintain their body temperature, constant body temperature. Respiration is by lungs. Very, very important point. Respiration is by lungs. And their lungs are having small air sac because they have to fly for the long distances and they require more energy. They require more energy. So these air sacs can take more oxygen, and this more oxygen can be supplied to the whole body via blood, because in these oxygen get dissolved in the blood and this blood reaches to every parts of the body. Oxygenated blood reaches to the every parts of body. Now this oxygen is used for producing energy by the oxidation of glucose or the food material. As you all know, for the respiration process, cellular respiration, there is a requirement of oxygen. And they are flying. They need more energy. So they require more oxygen. So their lungs got modified here. Their lungs are having some air sacs attached with it. Air sacs connected to the lungs supplement respiration. Now here that point comes. Air sacs are connected with the lungs that provide more respiration. Supplement respiration means more respiration. Sexes are separate. Male individual and female individual are separate there. Fertilization is internal. Like reptiles, birds are also having the internal fertilization. They are also having internal fertilization. They are oviparous. Oviparous means they lay eggs and the development is direct. So no larval stage. When the eggs hatch, okay, and the new one comes out, it looks same like the adult one, except they are not having much feathers. So slowly and slowly the feathers develop their size. In the size they increases and they look same like the adult, right? So they are having beaks, they are having legs, they are having small wings. So it is almost like the adult one only. So that is why we can say that their development is direct. Now we will talk about the examples. Corvus. Corvus is a scientific name of crow. Commonly we call corvus as a crow. Columbia, that is called as pigeon. Pistacula, parrot. Struthio, ostrich. Pavo, as a peacock. And Aptenodytes, that is penguin. And Neophron, that is vulture. So here are some of the birds picture. And this is the Neophron. Neophron is the vulture. Struthio, that is the ostrich. Pistacula, that is parrot. And Pavo as a peacock. They are found. Now we will talk about the most advanced class of chordata, that is mammalia. They are found in a variety of habitats. You can see mammals in a very extreme climates also. Polar ice caps. In the case of desert also. Mountains, forest, grassland and dark caves. Everywhere. Mammalia, yes, it includes human also, right? So you see mammals in the polar ice caps, in the case of desert, the case of mountains, forest, grassland and dark caves as well. Some of them have adapted to fly or live in water. But you can see that some of the mammalian examples, right? They are adapted to fly and some live in water. The very best example of the mammalian that is adapted to fly, that is bat. Bat. And the one that live in water, whale. Okay? The whale is not a fish. It is a mammal that lives in water. The most unique mammalian characteristic is the presence of milk producing glands, that is the mammary gland. Yes, they produce milk, and the milk producing gland or the organ that is called as mammary gland, right? So this is one of the main characteristic of the class Mammalia. Mammary glands you do not see in any other like organisms, right? They feed. Now, with the help of mammary glands, what they do, they feed their young ones and provide nourishment from the mammary glands. Okay, they provide nourishment to the young ones by feeding from the mammary glands. They have two pairs of limbs, hmm? Forelimbs and hind limbs. And these limbs are adapted for walking, running, climbing, burrowing, swimming, and flying. Walking, human is adapted for walking. Running, we can run also, right? But other mammals are also adapted for running, like we can say lion, cheetah, they are adapted for running. Climbing, monkey, monkey, they are adapted for climbing. Burrowing, hmm? Rabbit, rabbit is a mammal and it is adapted for burrowing. Swimming, hmm? Swimming, your whale, and flying, that is bat. Yes, platypus is also there. Platypus, duckbill platypus. The skin of mammals is unique in possessing hair. Now, this is one of the very important feature of the mammal, that they are having hairs on their body. Their body is covered with the hairs. So this hair provide insulation to them. They provide insulation to them, right? They are also having external ears or the pinna. External ears or pinna, right? Till birds, till aves, like we studied about the amphibians, reptiles, aves, they are not having any external ears or the pinna. Here, in the case of mammals, they bear the external ears or pinna, right? So here are some of the examples. Some mammals: ornithorhynchus, macropus. Macropus is a marsupial, kangaroo. It is a marsupial. They give birth to the young one that are very much immature. Immature. So they are having in their body, they are having pouch. In this pouch, and they keep this young ones till they become mature. So this macropus comes under the marsupial. So here we can see that the mammals are three different types. The one that lay eggs. Now there are some mammals that they can lay eggs. There are some mammals that give birth to the young ones, but the young ones are very much immature. Immature. And there are mammals that they give birth to the young ones that are quite mature than as you compared with the marsupials. But like we have talked about, the skin of mammals is unique in possessing hairs. Yes, not every mammal possesses hairs. There are whales. There are whales that they do not possess hair because they live in water. They live in water, right? So that they do not require any hairs on them. We are talking about the three different types of mammals. Hmm? The one that lay eggs. The example is duckbill platypus, marsupials, kangaroo, and the other that give birth to the young ones. There are so many like cat, dog, human. Okay. The other two examples here in the figure, you can see the C, that is the pteropus, that is the bat, and Balanoptera, that is the whale. Different types of teeth are present in the jaw. We are having different types of teeth in the jaw. And that is for the type of food we are eating. We are having incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. So different types of teeth are present in our jaws. Heart is four-chambered. They are homoiothermous. That is, they can regulate their body temperature. Respiration is done by lungs. They are having lungs, so that is helpful for the process of respiration. Sexes are separate and fertilization is internal. They are having separate male and female individual, right? And fertilization is always internal. They are viviparous with few exception and development is direct. Viviparous means they give birth to the young ones. But there are some exceptions that some of the mammals, they lay eggs. Instead of giving birth to the young ones, they lay eggs like duckbill platypus. Development is direct. No larval stages are seen here. Examples: oviparous, ornithorhynchus. Ornithorhynchus is the scientific name, platypus. Viviparous, macropus, kangaroo. Pteropus, flying fox. Camelus, camel. Macaque, monkey. Rattus, rat. Canis, dog. Felis, cat. Elephas, that is elephant. Equus, horse. Delphinus, common dolphin. Balanoptera, blue whale. Panthera tigris, tiger. And Panthera leo, lion. Sorry. So you must be aware of all these animals, but this flying fox is like, they are also comes under the marsupials only. And you can see these flying fox in one of the continent like Australia. Flying fox. Flying fox is actually look like a fox, small in size, but they can jump from one tree to the other, right? So that is why they are called as flying fox. When they jump from one tree to the other, they look like they are flying. So that is why they are called as flying fox. Yes. So the four important mammals are represented here in the form of figure. We have already discussed about them. The salient distinguishing feature of all phyla under the animal kingdom is comprehensively given in the table. So let us see the table. So here we have talked about the Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Esculenthes, and Annelida. So if you see the figure, is this table, level of organization, we have talked about this. Symmetry, coelom, segmentation, digestive system, circulatory system, respiratory system, and these are some of the distinguishing feature of that particular file. So here, if you see the level of organization, the Porifera is the cellular level of organization. In the case of tissue, you can see Coelenterata and Ctenophora are having the tissue level of organization. Platyhelminthes, they are having organ and organ system. Esculenthes, they are having organ system. Annelida, organ. If you talk about the symmetry, then they are having asymmetry. Generally, they are having asymmetry. So there it is written various. Radial and radial in the case of Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Bilateral in the case of Platyhelminthes, Esculenthes, and Annelida. Segmentation. Before segmentation, coelom is there. If you talk about the coelom, then you can see the first time coelom came to the Esculenthes, and up to this Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Platyhelminthes, they are not having any body cavity. So they are acoelomate. Pseudocoelomate, the Esculenthes, and coelomate, that is the Annelida. Segmentation, absent. First time segmentation appears in the case of Annelida. Digestive system, absent. Incomplete in the case of Coelenterata, Ctenophora, and Platyhelminthes. complete type of digestion, two openings, mouth and anus, that we see in the case of Escalmenthes and Annelida. Circulatory system, you see that all they are not having any circulatory system from Porifera to Escalmenthes. First time circulatory system appears in the case of Annelida. Respiratory system, all are not having any respiratory system from Porifera to Annelida. Distinctive feature, body with the pores and canal. This we see in the case of Porifera. Nidoblast cells in the case of Cnidarians. Comb plates for the locomotion, Ctenophora. Flat body, we see in the case of Platyhelminthes. Often worm-shaped, elongated, Escalmenthes. Body segmentation like rings, that we see in the case of Annelida. Now, this is the another table that represent from Arthropoda to Chordata. Organ system. Okay. Arthropoda is having the organ system, mollusca organ system. All from here, Arthropoda to Chordata, they are having the organ system. If you see the Arthropoda, they are having the bilateral symmetry. Okay. Radial symmetry we see in the case of Echinodermata. This is a very unique feature. If we talk about the coelom, that is the body cavity, Arthropoda is coelomate. All the organisms from Arthropoda to Chordata, they are coelomate. Okay. Digestive system, present, absent in the case of mollusca, right? Complete. This is the digestive system. And circulatory system. Now, if we see the distinguished feature, then Arthropoda, exoskeleton is of cuticle, jointed appendages they are having. Mollusca, external skeleton and shell usually present. Shell you see in the case of mollusca only. Echinodermata, water vascular system, radial symmetry. Hemichordata, worm-like with proboscis and collar and trunk. Chordata, notochord, presence of notochord. This is a very unique feature of the chordata. Dorsal hollow nerve cord present. Gill slits are present with limbs or fins. So these are some of the unique feature of this particular phylum. Summary. Phylum Chordata includes animals that are characterized by the notochord, dorsal hollow nerve cord, pharyngeal gill slit, post-anal tail at some point in their development. Amphibia, they are cold-blooded vertebrates. They are having the moist skin and permeable skin. They undergo metamorphosis, typically starting with life in the water. Gills develop lungs for the adult terrestrial life. Examples, frog and salamander. Reptilia, cold-blooded vertebrates with dry and scaly skin. They have the lungs throughout life and they lay amniotic egg on the land. Example, snake, lizard and turtle. Warm-blooded vertebrates characterized by the feathers, wings and beaks. They have hard-shelled and are adapted for flight. Example, birds. Mammalia, warm-blooded vertebrates with hair, fur and mammary glands. They have give birth to the young ones and produce milk. Most advanced nervous system. Examples, human, cats and whales. So this is all about today's session. Thank you very much.